Hello everyone, hope you're doing okay. So my next guest is somebody who has been in the theatre music industry for 20 years. Long time. He's done his own one-man shows, written so many original songs. He's fantastic. And you will recognise him from this year's Britain's Got Talent auditions. His name's Jon Courtenay, and he also won one of 5 golden buzzers. This golden buzzer was given by Anton Deck, and he will be performing on the Britain's Got Talent stage very soon. Wishing him all the best of luck, and I was so pleased to get to chat with Jon. Such a great guy and so talented. Please take a listen to our interview. Right, my first question for you is, where does your love of music come from?
Probably my parents, first of all. From mum and dad are in the business. Mum was a singer and an actress, and dad was, they were both involved in old time music hall. They used to be part of Barrington's music hall. They used to tour around and do shows. And mum was in things like Annie Get Your Gun and South Pacific and all that stuff. So I used to go and watch shows. So I think it started with the theatre really, and watching mum. I used to help mum learn shows too, because the old time musical has some really old songs, things like Long Way to Tipperary and Pack Up Your Troubles in Your Old Kit Bag, songs like that. So I was learning to play those from the age of sort of 6 or 7 to help mum, to accompany mum, to help her learn the songs. So I guess it was that. And my dad was a lot older than my mum. My dad was 20 years older than my mum. So he was 47 when I was born. So we had these 3 generations in my house. And my dad was very much into Sinatra and the Rat Pack, and he gave me a love of that. My mum was Beatles and bit of the Stones and that kind of stuff. And then I grew up with those 2 different generations. So yeah, mum and dad, I guess.
Yeah, amazing. And you said you accompanied your mum. Is there a memory that really sticks with you? Was there a song particularly that you remember playing?
I remember Just My Bill was one of the early ones. A beautiful tune. Just my Bill, an ordinary man, da, 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 follow him. And it was like this song of being in love with a guy that the love wasn't reciprocated, I guess. And I was pretty young when I learned to play that for. It's just such a lovely tune, you know. And the fact that my mum was singing about a man that wasn't my dad didn't seem to occur to me. But the song was great, so I remember learning that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have a favourite genre of music? You were saying there about mum and dad had very different tastes. Do you have a favourite?
Not really. My iTunes is so eclectic. I'm not a huge fan of opera. I appreciate the huge talent that the singers have, but it's never been something that I've sort of pursued as an interest. And heavy metal has not really been on the scale, but everything in between. It depends what mood I'm in. I've got country, I've got theatre, I've got R&B. Everything's in there really. So
yeah, anything. And
yeah,
what about to write for? You know, is there a particular genre of music that you find easiest to write?
Probably theatre. I love, quirky, obviously comedy songs. I mean, most of the stuff I write, I guess when I was younger, there was a lot of sort of ballads. Every time a girl broke up with me, I wrote a song. I wrote a lot of songs. And so I guess that was a way of sort of trying to express myself. And now it tends to be, sort of theatrical. I mean, the stuff I write for my show it's obviously one man and a piano and in a theatre, and it's normally about trying to make people smile and make people laugh. That tends to be the way I go naturally. Yeah, but I also quite like writing to order. I quite like the pressure of somebody saying, we need a song for this. Can you do it? If I'm forced to write out of my comfort zone, I'm sometimes surprised by what I can come up with. But if I'm just left to my own devices, I'll just, it tends to be sort of quirky, comical, theatrical numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, and you say there that you like to write for other people. What is the best thing that you've been asked to write?
There's a couple of things I don't think I'm meant to talk about actually that have started since BGT. I'm helping somebody to write a sort of a musical. He hasn't told me I can't say anything, but I don't think I'm meant to because it hasn't sort of come out yet. But he's a celebrity and he's going on tour next year with a new show. And he's asked me to write some stuff for that, which is really exciting because it's none of it is my idea. None of the show is my idea, but I can put my own ideas into what I'm writing. So I'm working on the opening number at the minute, which seems to be coming out as sort of a soul number, which I've never written, like a Barry White kind of thing. And I don't know how that came out. I just had the idea of the song. I thought this would suit like a soul. And I've never written soul I've never sung soul. I've never written soul, but that seems to be what I'm coming out with. So that's kind of exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, isn't it? When you're asked to write something but it's based on somebody else's idea, I guess that makes you write different things, and influences come out of that, I guess, because that's
absolutely. Yeah, I don't think I'm very good at writing with other people's lyrics. He sort of left it up to me to write the lyrics. He's just given me the idea of what the show is, and sort of left it up to me to try and express it, which is a nice way to work. I've had a couple of people write lyrics for me, and I think it's such a personal thing. I tend to write the lyrics first when I'm writing stuff. I come up with the idea of a song, and I'll scribble down some ideas for lyrics, and then I'll work out the form and what's going to rhyme and what isn't going to rhyme. And writing, I mean, I know a lot of musicians. Elton John, for example, doesn't write any of his own lyrics. He only works with Bernie Taupin or Tim Rice or whatever, and they give him the lyrics and he can immediately write a tune to it. And I find that really difficult. I find it much easier to sort of have the two connected in me, to be able to write them together. So, but horses for courses, it's worked okay for Elton. So
yeah, sure, yeah, absolutely, he's doing all right, not too bad. I was actually gonna ask you that, what you how the process is for you. So you start writing the lyrics and then put the tune to it?
Generally, yeah. I mean, it might be that I get a tune in my head and I think, where have I heard that? And it might not be that I've heard it anywhere. It's just something that, we're all influenced by something. I mean, you listen to music one day and then you're writing, and you just got to be careful that it doesn't overlap too much and you get accused of plagiarism. But yeah, occasionally I've had a tune in my head, or I've got an idea for a song and the tune has come first, some sort of a melody. But it tends to be I have an idea for the lyric first, and then the tune comes quite quickly once I've got the lyrics. So, yeah.
Yeah. And if you could collaborate with anyone, any musician, who would it be and why?
Can I choose a dead one?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think, as I say, I grew up with this great love of Sinatra and the Rat Pack, and I still love that era and those songs. That's sort of my go-to playlist if I'm sat at a piano and I just, I worked in piano bars for years, and it was all that sort of great American songbook stuff. And the thought of being able to collaborate with any of those guys would have, pushed me over the edge, but obviously that's not going to happen. So I don't know if there's, I mean, because I listen to so much stuff. Yesterday I was listening to Brad Paisley, the American country singer. He's so good, good, and he's funny. The lyrics he writes are so funny, and I mean, he can write a great love ballad too. And he did a great collaboration with Robbie Williams. They wrote a song, Two Sides of the Pond, it was called, or something. It was for the movie Cars, and it was really weird because about 6 years before that, I wrote a song, because I do a lot of shows to American audiences, and I wrote a song about the difference in our languages, and it was a comedy song, and it was making fun of both our languages, And then 6 years later, this song came out between Brad Paisley and Robbie Williams. I was like, I wrote that. That was my idea. And I'm, if I never performed it, I just wrote it and it was in a file. And if I did it now, people would be like, yeah, Robbie Williams and Brad Paisley did that. I was like, yeah, well, they did it after me.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things I'm really hoping that's going to come out of this recent exposure that I've had is that I'm going to get the opportunity to work with established songwriters and musicians and actors and people like that, because I've been traveling for 20 years pretty much, and haven't had a big break, haven't been out there and been exposed to that sort of audience. So that would be sort of a dream if, as I say, quite recently on the back of BGT, this guy contacted me and said, I love what you wrote, and I think that you'd be the right fit for writing stuff with me. And that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have got that exposure. So I'm hoping there's going to be more of that sort of, and I get to collaborate with anybody that is just at the top of their game. That would be amazing to have. You surround yourself with talent. You surround yourself with people that make you want to be better. And I thrive well on that. Yeah.
Well, it's learning from each other, isn't it? They Absolutely. Bring something to you and you bring something to them, and then without knowing, you've both learned from each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you touched there on BGT. I know we can't go into massive detail, but what was it like, getting on the stage and performing in front of all of those people on telly?
Yeah, I didn't think about the telly, to be honest. It's a weird thing. I had a friend that had been through the process a few years ago. He was on America's Got Talent and Britain's Got Talent, and he was a great source of advice for me, because he said, you know, when you walk out, the whole left side of the theatre are cameras. They take out all the seats and they have all these cameras installed, and then there's cameras at the back of the stage that are filming the judges, one camera on each judge, and they're just behind you there. But I didn't see any of that. It's a weird thing, but I just walked out, and it was, well, first of all, the thought of walking out onto the Palladium stage was such a big deal for me, which they touched upon in the broadcast, but they cut some bits out where I was talking about, you know, the people that have been on that stage, Charlie Chaplin and Laurel and Hardy and Morecambe and Wise and all these people that I grew up watching had been on that stage. And during the day, it was incredible. There's no real, you can walk anywhere. I mean, I thought it would be quite restricted. You know, you wait in that room until we call your name. But I was wandering around backstage for most of the day, and just, you know, and they do these, they film lots of clips as well. They take you under the stage, and they film some stuff down there, and then they take you back. So I got this incredible tour of the theatre, and I watched most of the show from the wings of the Palladium, which I kept looking around expecting somebody to say, you know, what are you doing here, and get out of the way, but nobody did. It was amazing. So that whole day was leading up to the performance was such an incredible experience. And then to walk out, and well, meeting Ant and Dec, that was the first sort of, that was Ant and Dec. That's very cool. And I've grown up watching them as well. And then suddenly they say, out you go. And I'm used to being, when I'm doing a show, I get introduced. You hear, you know, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome. And you have this build up, and it's the Palladium. So you're thinking that's what it's going to feel like. And there's none of that, because Ant and Dec just say, off you go. And I'm like, what? Just walk out. And I just wander out, and then a couple of people notice and they start clapping. And Simon didn't look up for ages, and the other judges sort of. But I walked out, and just you see that full theatre, and it's so overwhelming. It's so that was the first reaction. That was like, wow, which I think you saw me do on the thing. I mean, that was real. That was like, whoa. And then I look down, and there's the four most recognizable faces on British TV, and you go, whoa again. And then I started the song, and straight away the reaction from the audience was amazing. They were right on it, because it was an original song. I hadn't done it before, so I didn't really know. I played it for friends and stuff, but I didn't know how it was going to work in performance. You know, I felt it was a good song, but you don't know until you've done it. You know, of course. And the reaction from the audience was right from the beginning, was right on my side, and that took me by surprise. I mean, every single little joke. They actually cut a couple of jokes out of the song, I think, for timing or whatever. And they were big jokes, and I was like, no, they can't. So I went straight onto YouTube and put on my audition tape, which was the whole song, you know. I told everybody, you know, that there's two big jokes that they cut out. So
we want to don't miss them.
So the response was incredible. So that was like another level of being a bit overwhelmed. And then all the judges said such lovely things, and everybody was stood up. So and just when you think you can't get any more overwhelmed, Ant and Dec ran out and hit the golden buzzer. I'm amazed I didn't faint. It was just bonkers. An incredible experience, and everybody was so nice. You know, everybody that I dealt with that whole day. I mean, the team that work on that show is huge. I mean, there are 100 people backstage with crew T-shirts on that are dealing, and they've all got, it's like an ant colony. Everybody's got their thing, and bang, it's just done. And the hours of footage they film of all the acts, you know, how they edit it. I mean, I do some video editing, and that process scares the heck out of me. It was just a really good day, and it's been quite a surreal experience ever since, really. Phone calls and interviews and newspaper and radio. It's been great. But of course, we don't know when the live shows are going to happen, so it's sort of a bit up in the air at the minute. So, but
I bet, you know, like you were saying, talking about the whole day as an actual experience, because I think people take the 3 minutes that we watch on the telly and they go, oh, there we are, that was fantastic, wasn't he great, or she great, or brilliant, lovely. But like you say, there's actually a whole there's an experience there, isn't there? It's the whole day and everything about I bet. That's the thing. If you're, you know, one of the last ones on, you've been there all day.
I was the last act. I was the last act on the last day of the London auditions. It was the fourth day of the London auditions. I didn't walk on stage until I think about 11:15 at night, and it was meant to be about 9 o'clock, but it always overruns apparently. And we'd been there since 10 o'clock in the morning, myself and Emma and both my boys. So it was 12 hours to achieve 3 minutes. And then all of a sudden it's done. And because of the buzzer afterwards, there was a lot of, you know, cameras in my face, and somebody handed me a phone and said, you know, this is for Instagram, talking to the phone, and I've just come off stage, and I'm, you know, they actually put a clip on their YouTube account of me. The clip said, "What does it feel like to get a golden buzzer here from Jon?" And it's on the BGT thing, and it's me talking into their phone that they gave me. And you can see I'm so emotional. I'm in the wings of the Palladium, and they've stuck this talking to the phone and tell us what it feels like. And I was like, oh, I'm so emotional. You think sometimes when you watch the broadcast that people are faking it sometimes, it's that, or the the emotional side of it, but it is totally overwhelming. It really is. It's even for somebody I've been doing it for 30 years, and you think nothing's going to phase you when it comes to being on stage, but that process was very overwhelming. Incredible.
And I think the thing is as well, like you say, you hear people say it all the time, but it's the same when you get a job, when you've been auditioning and auditioning and auditioning, it's not that you don't think you're going to get it, but it takes such a long time when you are, like you say, given that golden buzzer, somebody just, it does take you by surprise. You do think, oh my God, because you know that they're so few and far between. The places actually to move on to the next stage of the competition, if you like, are few anyway. But the golden buzzer, there really is only 5. So I guess you don't even think about that.
No, I mean, there was only 2 left as well, because they don't broadcast it in order, obviously. I mean, I was the second golden buzzer on the broadcast, but I was the penultimate on the actual day, and it was there was only Ant and Dec and David that had a gold buzzer left, and they still hadn't filmed in Manchester. They had another 4 days of filming in Manchester. So somebody asked me backstage in one of the interviews that I do, how would it feel to get the golden buzzer? And I went, amazing, but that's not going to happen. There's 3 buzzers gone. They have to save some for Manchester. A lot of the interviews, people say, what would it feel like to win Britain's Got Talent? And I think most people in this business, we've all got our insecurities, and at the same time, you've got to have an ego, because you've got to stand on stage and say, love me or like me or enjoy me. But then I think we're all beset with these insecurities as performers, worried that we're not good enough, so anything that sort of goes that well, you're constantly sort of pinching yourself, especially when it's only 3 minutes. I mean, if I'd have done a full show at the Palladium, if I'd have done my one-man show at the Palladium and got that response, it would have been incredible, but I would have worked really hard for it. I'd have been sweating, and I was on there for 3 minutes, and it got so that was very, very strange. And the response afterwards, I mean, the lovely stuff people have been saying online, and the tweets and stuff like that, it's just incredible. It's like I keep saying overwhelming, but that's the word, I think.
That's the only word you can use.
And my kids keep playing it. I'll walk into the lounge and they'll have it playing on the TV, and I do a double take because I almost forget that it's me. It sounds weird, but I sort of see myself and I'm going like, oh yeah. It takes me by surprise every time I see it. Yeah, in high def, every pimple and spot, and yeah.
And talking about the final, I know like you say, you don't know when it's going to be yet, the live shows, but have you worked on any of your material yet? Do you know kind of what you're going to be doing? Is it going to be an original song? Is it going to be something that you've written previously?
Yeah, well, we had to have it ready because obviously when we did the auditions, we still thought that the live shows were going to be at the end of May. They were going to start on the 21st of May. And then you have a week of semi-finals, and then at the end of the week is the finals. So they said, you've got to have something ready, because I could have been the last act to be broadcast. So I had to have something ready. So I did. I wrote something, two more original songs, one for the semis and one for the finals. And I think I think I'm going to swap them. They're both very different, and one of them is really quirky and out there. And I think because of the way they edited it as well, I had no idea when I watched the broadcast. That was the first time I'd seen my kids reacting to me doing the broadcast, because obviously, afterwards they were like, "Oh, Dad, you were great," and they were hugging me. But to actually see their reaction during the song was really touching, really emotional. And they really edited it to be emotional as well. I mean, obviously it wasn't faked. That was real. Yeah, sure. But watching it back, I mean, I've had a lot of comments from people saying, we think you should do something funny for the semi-finals because we think you could be really funny. I've been doing a comedy show for 25 years. I mean, that's what I think. I'm comedy before I'm music, really, in my head. Music is just a tool for the comedy to help people laugh and have fun. Yeah. So people now are just seeing me as this emotional dad that wrote a song for his family, and you should try being funny. Well, I might try that. So, but one of the funny. Yeah, well, one of the songs is so out there that I think people are going to go, whoa, we weren't expecting that, and I don't know if that will work in my favor. So I'm thinking I might save the really quirky one for the finals, and then do I have a song that I've sort of written, which it's funny. Again, it's got some jokes in it, but it's about my parents. It's about me growing up rather than more about me now and my kids now. It flips it, and it talks about my mum and dad performing and me watching them performing and learning from them. So it's a bit more similar to what I did, rather than doing this crazy outrageous one and people going, what the hell?
Wow. Yeah.
But I'm still, I mean, the one thing about the delayed live shows is that I've got time now to think like that. I've got longer to work on it and, you know, polish it. And so,
yeah, I guess that is the beauty of it in a sense. You know, you have got a little bit more time. If you could paint the next 5 to 10 years, totally in your favour, it's all in your control, what would it look like for you? This is one everyone always goes, oh gosh.
Oh, blimey. I don't know. I mean, I've always been so happy to do this for a job. I mean, I don't want to sound pithy, but I've never taken it for granted. You know, I mean, I've never had a normal job. Well, I had a job in an office when I was 18 years old for my local council. That was enough to make me realize I didn't want to work in an office. You know, some people, I've got family that can do that. That's their job and they love it. And whatever the job is, that was never going to be me. It had to be something to do with performing and the performing arts. So even on my worst days, I've always said my worst day is somebody else's best day. You know, my worst day when I've got a delayed flight somewhere, or they've lost my baggage, or the audience are a bit tough, or the sound engineer is not great. That doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I'm still doing something that I'm really passionate about and I love to do. And I think, well, I know that I can carry on doing that for the rest of my life. It would be lovely to be doing that at another level. And also I'm sort of hoping, like when I was younger, the whole theatre thing, I was in a youth theatre when I was a teenager. I was at a boarding school, and our local youth theatre, I became a part of that. And we did Pippin and we did David Copperfield and West Side Story, and I absolutely loved it. And I think if I hadn't, I sort of fell into doing this. I got my mum and dad lived in Cyprus at the time, and I got a job in the hotels around Cyprus, playing piano and performing and doing a show. And that's how I started working professionally. They started paying me to do something that I just loved to do. And I was going to do drama school. And I ended up performing professionally and earning money. So I didn't. And I don't believe in regrets, but I'd love to do more theatre. I mean, I'd love to get back into not just theatre, acting. And if this gave me a springboard, an opportunity, I mean, I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but it would be great to have that opportunity out of this. And television presenting, radio presenting, all that sort of stuff that I sort of touched on earlier on in my career. Maybe this would give me the opportunity to do some more of that. It'd be great. But as long as I'm in this business, you know, it's making people happy is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a great way to earn a living, you know.
It is. I mean, the thing is, to be within the entertainment industry, like you say, it's so vast, isn't it? You know, it's so broad. You know, anything to do with it is amazing. And like you say, seeing people, making them smile and happy, you don't know what's happened with their day, but they've come to watch you perform. And the fact that they're there and they're enjoying themselves, sometimes you just think, well, do you know what? You've made it, haven't you?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, the nicest compliments are people coming up to me after my sort of full show and having a story and it happens all the time. You know, my dad just passed away. My wife something that's happened in their life. You know, I've just been diagnosed with cancer, something. And this is the first time I've laughed, or the first time I've come out. I mean, it's so emotional. The fact that I've just done something that is relatively easy to me. I've been doing it for so long, you know, and I love doing it. It's not hard work. It's something that I love doing. That it can have that sort of effect on people is the greatest feeling in the world. I mean, it's incredible. And the fact that I get paid to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Even a bonus.
Yeah.
You know, you can't imagine other jobs being like that. You know, not many other people can get that satisfaction. And like you were saying about hopefully getting a springboard into things like acting and stuff, you know, that's another great thing, isn't it? Because you can be an actor at any age with any experience. And I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it isn't something I've managed to pursue at this point because I've been too busy doing this. And then, of course, the family came along and I had to make sure I could support the family. And, you know, acting can be a very treacherous career. So I couldn't afford to not do what I'm doing, basically, and take time out to do the acting. But if this gives me the opportunity, that'd be absolutely amazing in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know.
Epic. Favourite place that you've ever visited?
Oh, blimey, I've been traveling for 20 years. I think the grass is always greener, isn't it? I mean, I can sound cheesy and say home because I'm traveling so much. It's always nice coming home. But I still love traveling. I think that passion for travel and other cultures and stuff has been a huge part of my career. And during the summer season, you tend to find yourself more around the Mediterranean. If I'm doing the cruise ships, for example, then you find yourself around the Med. And then in the winter, all the ships go out more far flung. They go to Australia and Thailand, the Far East, and America and the Caribbean. And normally, if I spend a lot of time away from the Med, then I want to come back to Italy and Spain, and I want to sit in a coffee shop and watch the world go by. And then after doing that for a while, I think, the Far East is so exotic, and and Australia's amazing, and so I just still like traveling, even with delayed flights and lost luggage. It's still. But saying that, this lockdown has been great too. I'm still in the zone of enjoying not traveling because I've been doing it for so long. So I'm still loving putting the kids to bed every night and waking up in the morning and not having to grab a suitcase. So that hasn't worn off yet. It probably will as soon as the money runs out, which is rapidly approaching. But,
of course, yeah.
Yeah. But I do like the Med. I mean, the Med feels like home. Just anywhere in Spain or Italy or Croatia's beautiful. We had a family holiday in Croatia, actually. And that's a wonderful place, still relatively undiscovered. By tourism, but that's a beautiful area. We had a great family holiday there. So, yeah.
And do you have a favorite car? So if I said to you, you can have whatever car you want, are you into cars?
I'm really not. I mean, I enjoy driving a nice car. Don't get me wrong, but I think that the Tesla, the new SUV Tesla, is it the X, Model X? I think Tesla X. It's an SUV and it's faster than a Ferrari. It's insane, and that probably one of those. I think it's about £85,000, is it, or something that crazy? So, wow. Yeah, if Tesla want to help me promote them and they want to sling me a car.
Perfect.
I won't say no. Yeah, but no, I'm not really a car person.
No, somebody asked me. I was talking to somebody else the other day, and I said to them about favourite mode of transport because they travel a lot, and then they were like, "Well, I don't know, but I'm really into cars," and they kind of flung the question back onto me, and I was like, "Oh, don't ask me. I don't even know what kind of car I have."
my wife goes by colour. She'll be a car go. Oh, that's a nice car. I'm like, that's a whatever, not particularly good. And she went, yeah, but it's a lovely colour. What?
Somebody said to me the other day, what kind of car do you have? I was like, oh, a red one. And they were like, yeah, but what color? So it's red. It's quite bright red.
I think for me, I got the opportunity last year to drive a Porsche around Miami and up to Orlando. I went to visit some friends and I had a few days there. And there's an app called Turo, Turo, and it lets you rent cars from the owners. And it said, rent a supercar from the owner. I was just looking at a Mustang or something kind of fun. I've done that before. And it turned out I could get a Porsche for but the same price as a Mustang. So I had a Porsche for 4 days around Miami and Fort Lauderdale and Orlando. And that was cool. But I mean, it would have been equally as cool in a Mustang or in any car with the top down driving around Miami is going to be pretty epic. But that was my first time having a Porsche for 4 days. And that was fun.
Pretty epic. And
it was white, if you want to know. Yeah.
I was just going to say, what colour was it? Oh, brilliant. And if you were an artist, as in like a painter, what kind of work do you think you would do?
I don't know. I quite like drawing. I'm not brilliant at it, but I'm sat here looking at the other wall of my lounge. I've got some Dylan Isaac paintings, and they're amazing. They're really quirky and fun and very clever. I saw recently an exhibition of the lifelike drawings that were mind-blowing. You could get this close to them and it looked like a photograph, and it was done with pencil and paint and charcoal and crayon, and that was phenomenal. There is an argument there that you may as well take a photo, so I get that. So yeah, quirky again, same as my show, probably a bit quirky and out there, and something to make people go ooh. Yeah. Whatever makes you go ooh. And then what have you been up to in lockdown? So we've all been doing bits and bobs. I guess, have you been doing lots of writing? I have. It's almost like the most creative period of my life, actually. I mean, I'm very lucky. I've got this. It's a green screen at the minute, so you can't really see the studio. But my wife has let me convert our lounge into a studio, which is great. Well, half the lounge. So I've got this green screen studio with cameras and lights and recording equipment and everything. And it's been great. I mean, we've always had a piano in the lounge, but I never have time to sit and play it. I mean, when I come home, I literally don't even open the piano. And now I've got every day I can just walk in and sit behind it, click a button and record stuff and you know, get creative with the green screen stuff. And I've been writing furiously. Yeah, there's been quite a bit of stuff on my YouTube channel, which is Jon Courtenay 2. Let's get that plug in. Remember, that happens to be watching this. Yeah. Jon Courtenay and the number 2. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there, including the original version of the BGT song. And I find myself uploading quite a bit of stuff and writing quite a lot. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not bored, but I mean, I've got 2 kids as well. So even if I wasn't writing, I wouldn't be bored, you know. Homeschooling's fun. Homeschooling's great.
Yeah, banging your head against a brick wall.
It is tough. Well, my eldest son, actually, he's 15. We took him out of school at the end of February and started homeschooling him anyway, for various reasons. And we're using a company that do that you can homeschool, and he has tutors online that he can speak to and stuff. So he's a bit devastated because, you know, about a month after that started, all his friends got sent home from school anyway, and he's still got homeschooled. He's got a timetable, you know. And my younger son is thinking that it's just a massive holiday, so getting him to sit down and do anything is very hard work. But that's good, you know. Me and my wife are a team, so we get it done. It's all right.
Good tag team.
Yeah.
And my last question for you is kind of, I guess it's going to be the Britain's Got Talent, but what is next for you after lockdown has finished? What are you going to get back to doing?
Well, just working. I mean, I'm really missing theatres. I mean, I've done a few virtual shows like this, not just on Zoom, but also just down the camera lens, which is really weird. I mean, that took a lot of, well, I'm not used to it, but it's you have to change, because a lot of my stage show is quite spontaneous. There's a lot of chatting to the audience and getting feedback and ad-libbing, and a lot of comedy comes out of the people that I'm talking to. So that's gone out the window. If I'm doing these streaming shows, which I've done a few of. But it's good as well. Yeah, it's good to challenge yourself, and it is a different way of working. But that's all right, because I've been doing the other way of working for years, and it was almost getting a bit too easy. Even the tough audiences, you could win them around in the end. So this is good. Maybe that's why I've unlocked another creative part of me, you know, because you have to. We have to adapt, don't we? So it'll be great to get back in front of a live audience again, I think. And it'll probably be, you know, one of those first live audiences will be Britain's Got Talent, I hope. So that's going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess as well, you know, like you were saying, because you've been doing it for such a long time with an audience, you know, you do get used to winning around the crowd and certain the atmosphere and certain theatres and stuff. So I guess doing it just yourself down the lens, it does make it, hopefully it'll make it a bit fresher and a bit more, you know, new for you when you get back to it.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got a lot of new material to go in the show anyway, and I always change the show a little bit. You always tweak it here and there, but when it's almost, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I mean, my stage shows, although it adapts slightly a little bit, it hasn't had a major overhaul in a long time, and I think that's what's going to happen now. Especially on the back of BGT as well. You know, I mean, there's going to be stuff in there. There'll be something else to talk about, a different level of exposure as well. You know, it's quite funny already that I'm not, my head's not in the zone of being even minorly famous and of course, you know, that has happened. I mean, I've got this, my son's got me on TikTok, which is going insane. I think I've got 37,000 followers and that's happened since I did BGT, which is, I don't think any of them are over 16, but that's great because they've all got parents as well, and those parents are getting involved too. So that's, and I stopped at the traffic lights the other day in my little village here, and there's been quite a lot of promotion about the fact that I'm from Mosley. So I've done the local newspapers, done a big page spread, and people online have said, "Oh, I live in Mosley too, and we're really proud of you," and that's all lovely. But it still hasn't really sunk in. So I was just sat at the traffic lights, and the sun was shining. I had the window down. And a cyclist was coming the other way, and he stopped on the side of the road on the other side and looked in my window and went, and my brain just went, "I don't know you." And I must have been like, just glared at him like, and then I went, oh, yeah, thank you. My first thought was, who's the weirdo just giving me a thumbs up? I don't recognize him. So I think it's going to take some getting used to. Yeah. I mean, you know, luckily it isn't. I'm still quite happy going to the shops. Of course, it helps that we're all wearing masks now as well. Nobody's bothering me for selfies. They can't get close enough for a selfie. So.
Nope.
My mum's a bit upset, and my kids, of course, want me to be famous. They're over the moon that you know that it's all happened and that they've got a tiny, teeny bit of fame in the family. So, but
yeah, that's epic. Oh, well, I'm so pleased for you, and I really hope that it goes well when we get back to it. And yeah, I really hope, fingers crossed. And I run a children's theatre company, and as you can imagine, the kids loved it. It was
that's
fab.
great. Please say hi for me. Well, if they'll see this, hi everybody, and good luck with your next production. I hope I get to see one. That'd be great.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, we were literally just a week away before we had to shut actually from our big production. So
it was all the work that went into it.
I know. Well, it takes me 3 months usually to write it and secure venues and costumes and stuff, and then it's 3 months worth of rehearsals. So it was about kind of 6-7 months. Yeah, we were literally about to do our dress run, and then it would have been the show. So,
but it's going to come back. You'll still get to do it. It'll happen.
Oh, absolutely. And I've said to the children, you know, actually, although we didn't want this, you know, we were so ready for it. You know, I'm trying to think of little ideas that can make it just that little bit bigger and that little bit more special. And I think honestly, it will be so special compared to the other ones that we've done, because it will mean so much to them to actually be there together. Your families are watching.
Yeah, and people are going to want to come out. I mean, as soon as we can, you know, the parties are going to be epic. I mean, it's
my God,
that's what all my performing friends are saying as well, because they're sat at home now, and we all want to get back into a theatre. And when we can, it's going to be off the scale. People are going to want to cut loose and celebrate and be entertained, and it's going to come back 100-fold. You know, we'll be okay. It'll be all right.
Yeah. I think as well, you kind of like you forget that feeling, you know, when you're stood there and that applause and, you know, being announced on stage. That will just be incredible. All the emotions and everything.
It's going to be emotional, yeah.
It will. Oh, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. It's been fab.
You're welcome, Jen. Thanks. Lovely. And good luck.
Thank you.
I hope it all comes back sooner rather than later. Yeah.
Yeah. You too. Stay safe.
Huge thank you to Jon for that interview, and myself and all of the children at the Jen Biddle Children's Theatre Company wish him all the very best of luck for the Britain's Got Talent lives. Best of luck, Jon. We're rooting for you. Lots of great guests still to come. Take care, everybody. See you soon.